Ali. I am just back from more than a year's work of experience in Afghanistan. 118 villages in the west, the south, the east, and in Kabul, based on 49 bots, cops, and ERTs. And I want to expand a little bit on that pessimism that you're talking about. And the narratives, which is partly what I was looking for, narratives, the tipping points, away from insurgency, and so I basically spent my time doing village for village, village for village. Pessimism basically is the legitimacy of the elections. For many Afghans that I talk to, when I'm talking between 5,000 and 10,000 Afghans on the ground, one thing that I can say is that they don't really feel it's a Western view of democracy. Everything in Afghanistan is local based. It's village and district. These are provincial elections. Most of the Afghans that I talked to leading up to the election basically were not, they didn't feel it was legitimate. So the legitimacy of the election, their cultural framework, it's not the way that we're talking about it in the Beltline. And I just wanted to expand on that a little bit because there is an existing village service system. There is an existing justice system, and it's village-based and district-based across most of Afghanistan. It's not necessarily provincial. Thank you.
Even the definition of what legitimacy is different. Obviously, legitimacy here, even where they do not see a legitimate, I would rather use a credible government in Kabul. I think this is what it's. They want to see legitimacy. They do want to see a government which delivers services and gains respect. But there's no getting around the fact that this central government has lost the credibility that it needed here so badly. But again, you're emphasizing here the very local nature, which should surprise no one. This is the way it is, and certainly in Afghanistan, which has been, where for reasons of communication and everything else, it's always been a highly decentralized country that it would be this way. But there is clearly a disappointment with the governance that they have experienced over these last 9 years, and that increases.
Yeah, I guess I would just add that I think this is exactly why I'm not sure these elections will have a big impact on how people perceive the whole project of governance. I mean, my sense is that one of the biggest problems with the current system is that you have, because it, and I mentioned this before, it's so over-centralized, where Karzai appoints almost every level of government, and there are so little places where Afghans can provide input or accountability into that system, and those traditional structures, whether it's the justice or the shura, those traditional mechanisms either have been weakened or they don't seem to be, and you would be able to speak better to this than I can, but they're being somehow marginalized or weakened in this process. And the challenge is, right now, the Taliban, from my understanding of the insurgency, is that they are able to, they have a very sophisticated political campaign where they can look at local communities, understand it, figure out how to reach out to those who feel marginalized, disaffected, and they can begin to expand their reach within different communities. And on the other side, we haven't been able to do that very effectively. How do you create more mechanisms for Afghans to be able to influence their system? Part of me thinks, district council elections, but then, we see with the parliamentary elections, it's not so easy. You can't just do elections. So, I think it's a good point.
We should note that these elections are paid for wholly by the international community. These are our elections in the sense that it would be impossible for them to pay the bill for these elections. And to the extent that we continue, it means that we're going to continue to subsidize democracy. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's not worth the cost.
We have a lot more questions. We're going to go a little longer today. We normally end at 1. We're going to about 1:10, 1:15. So I think we'll get everybody's questions.
We have some questions from the overflow.
Yeah, let me take one from the overflow room. To what extent, if any, did the presence of observers have any did a prophylactic effect on ballot box stuffing or similar methods?
That's easy to answer. We had none. Look, we were not going to catch anything. We saw the voting workers there catch some fraud, sort of tear up some cards, refused to, there were lots of extra voting cards available. But of course, you could only vote once. So you could have 30 cards in your pocket. You still only could vote once if you got your finger in. We were not there, in a sense, to prevent fraud. We were there to lend some legitimacy to the election. That's what we were there for. And in the process, if we inadvertently could prevent something from happening. But most of the thievery that takes place occurs before the balloting or after the balloting. And particularly, as we saw last year, in the tallying process. But together with the tallying process, before, in the decision that they're going to set up these ghost polling stations where they're going to be in polling centers that may have opened, but very few people are participating, where they have already stuffed the ballots. And we do know that that has occurred in several of the provinces.
Gentleman in the back here. Hold on a second.
Charlie Greenleaf.
Could you please speak into the microphone just as we podcast?
I'm Charlie Greenleaf. The results won't be known for several more weeks. What's the nature of the election monitoring internationally or domestically between the time you left and the time the results will come out?
Well, we have a team of people that are still there. We have long-term observers that are part of Democracy International that are continuing to monitor it. But they ended up actually withdrawing a lot of the election observers, the long-term election observers that were deployed throughout the country. They brought them back to Kabul earlier than they had hoped, I think largely because of fears over security. And there are other groups that are monitoring, like NDI, National Democratic Institute, and the European Commission. We had the biggest group, and we had 80 election observers. That's not that huge if you think about sort of how rural it is and how many polling stations. There were, as it was mentioned, there were thousands of domestic observers, but it's unclear. I think in the 2009 elections, maybe you would disagree, but my sense was that they were not an effective voice regarding the fraud, and so whether they'll take on a new